Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Niall O'Connor. We have just seen Jack Catterall defeat Harlem Eubank in Manchester via technical decision. We had six completed rounds, had a clash of heads, and Jack Catterall has won fairly clearly on the scorecards that we received. Niall, good to be joined by you. Happy to speak to you. I think this will be more enjoyable than the fight itself, perhaps. What did you make of that on the fight as a whole?
Yeah, we were just kind of chatting briefly off camera. It was a really poor matchup. The styles just didn't gel at all, which kind of should have been expected, to be quite honest with you. Two really kind of awkward styles. Yeah, they were never going to mesh properly. Catterall has his style. He's not the most exciting, but he is, effective for the most part in what he does. And then you have Eubank, who provided a really kind of awkward, yeah, really awkward style, and it was just horrible. It was messy. It was scrappy. You sent the photo into the ESBR group chat of the one of the tumbles, and I think that sums up the fight. To be honest, I think that's what that's going to be the defining image of that fight, even with the cuts. But yeah, it was a horrible matchup, and yeah, the most exciting thing to happen was the bizarre ending, the quite sudden ending of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Just I just think considering this fight as well, we had to wait until near enough 11 o'clock for the main event to begin. You just want a bit more action, a bit more entertainment. And I just think you have Jack Catterall. I like Jack Catterall, but yeah, he's not the most exciting fighter. And you had a Harlem Eubank who clearly hadn't fought at that level before, and you could kind of see it. We'll touch on a couple of things now. On the stoppage, were you surprised? Because what it looks like happened, is Jack Catterall's doctor looked at his cut, and Kerry Kayes did a bit of his magic, and it looked like we were okay to continue. He looked like he was ready to continue, whereas the doctor maybe looked at Harlem Eubank's cut, and decided that he wasn't okay to continue. Disagree with me if you want. That was my reading of the situation. And then the fight was stopped. Neither me or you are qualified doctors, so we're not best placed and we're not there like right in front of the fighters. But there were obviously some people kind of saying on social media and the commentators that could this fight have continued, basically. Give us your analysis and your thoughts on the whole ending of the fight, please.
Yeah, it's a really strange one because, like, first of all, I'd say I think it was the right decision to stop the fight based on how the two cuts looked. Well, particularly how Jack Catterall's cut looked, to be honest. Which I'm surprised that the doctor let it go on in Catterall's corner. You could actually see him say it. You could read his lips saying it's a very bad cut, but he did let him continue, and I think the fight would have had maybe 1, 2 rounds max left in it with how gruesome that cut was. Yeah, and then so I think the right decision was made. It was just how it transpired. You said, and I think that seems to be the case, that Eubank's corner, the doctor in that corner, called it off. Um, which it was a bad cut as well. It didn't seem to look as gruesome as uh, as Jack Catterall's, but it was a bad cut. But yeah, that's what seems to have happened. But then you've got the shot of the referee having a kind of in-depth discussion with, the people at ringside, and then as soon as he finishes that conversation, he calls it off. So I'm thinking maybe did even Eubank's doctor in their corner let it continue, and it was the ref that made the decision,
Mm.
which is quite bizarre if that's the case. Because I don't think I've ever seen that happen. Kind of the referee overruled the doctor's decision and call it off. But yeah, overall it was the correct decision with how gruesome those cuts looked. It was just very weird how it kind of seemed to end. I think Catterall's doctor should have called it there, and I think it would have lasted only 1 or 2 rounds after that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like there are some positives for the fighters here in the sense that none of them are taking any more punches to that cut because you got to think boxing's a brutal sport and you're going to kind of probably target that cut if your opponent's got one to try and make it worse. Jack Catterall's won the fight, and Harlem Eubank on paper has lost the fight, but he can come out and say, "I was going to get to him," or "the fight shouldn't have been stopped." So and he can definitely come again. How did you have it at the end of 6 rounds? No, because Harlem Eubank looked quite surprised when the scorecards were kind of not given in his favor. How did you have it after 6 rounds?
Yeah, again we were kind of talking off camera. I don't see how Harlem Eubank could think that he won that fight. I had Catterall up 69-65, so same as one of the judges, I believe. I thought he was ahead relatively comfortably. It was a really awkward fight, as I say, stylistically. But I just think Catterall, he was landing the more effective shots. He looked the more composed of the two. It was fought at his rhythm rather than Eubank's. Some rounds might be hard to score with how kind of awkward it was, but I just thought Eubank didn't do anywhere near enough in the flurries that he did have to catch my eye anyway. It cut to the three kind of fighters at ringside that they have as judges on the zone. And they had I believe all of them had it draw, or two out of the three had it draw.
Yeah.
And I was down to myself. I was thinking, have I watched a different fight so far? And will I need to kind of rewatch it? But yeah, I had Catterall ahead by four at the time of
Mm.
the stoppage. The cut. I just thought, yeah, more effective shots. The fight was fought at his rhythm. Yeah, and he was the one in control for me from the start of that.
Yeah, for sure. I only gave Harlem Eubank 1 round. How you can give him more than two, I'm not sure. I'd like to see. I just don't. I think that at one point Adam Smith asked Sonny Edwards how many kind of meaningful punches has Harlem Eubank landed yet? And Edwards' response was not kind of not many. I think that was in round 5. He just couldn't really get to Jack Catterall tonight. Would he have got to him? We don't know. Harlem Eubank holds power. He's won his last couple of fights by stoppage. So we'll never know. A couple more from me now. Will we? I'm not asking if you want to see a rematch because I think I know the answer to that. Do you think we will? Do you think we will see a rematch here? Because Jack Catterall probably not in a position to fight for a world title next. Probably we don't know when these cuts are going to heal. I suppose that's another factor. But do you think we'll see a rematch next?
Yeah, they are going to be two very different answers, whether I want to or whether I think we will. If I think we will, yeah, I do. I think it's pretty nailed on, to be honest with you, with how it ended, the manner of which it ended, and of course how close many people, Eubank really mostly, how close he kind of deemed it to be. He can say that he was very hard done by. And yeah, I just think with the way it ended with the cut, um, and with how close it was deemed to be in the public eye, I think it makes sense for the rematch to happen. As you say, it's going to take a long time for those cuts to heal. So you're probably looking at the end of the year maybe for this one. But yeah, I think it's going to be the logical one to take for both camps to rematch in this one.
Yeah, look, controversy sells. There's maybe a bit more spite there. And I think, yeah, I would say where are we now, July, December back in Manchester would be a good bet. But we'll see. Maybe Catterall will get an opportunity. Maybe Eubank won't want the rematch. So we'll see. Not a great fight tonight, Niall, but we're here analysing it and discussing what could happen next regardless. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers, take care.